If you would love your company to grow, you need to hire the right people. And today we have Tina Burke, and she is an expert in hiring the right people, and in particular, hiring the right accountants for your company. And today she's going to talk about the process, the unique system that she has created after 30 years in business. It's hard to believe because she looks too awesome. And she will talk about the process she has created in order to hire the right people for your company. So, Tina, please tell us, what is this incredible process you have created?
Thank you, Lily, and thank you for your compliment. So I always say that the best way to hire the best candidate is oftentimes through referrals. Or through, and if you use a recruiter like myself, it would be through recruiting. And especially in my business where I was an accountant, so I specialize in accounting, and then I'm able to go after the top talent. And then from there, I really try to match up the fit. So it's a culture fit. And so it takes time, it takes a little bit of time to really meet with the client and find out exactly what it is they're looking for, what are their hot buttons, and then match them up with the candidate. It's kind of like dating, but it's you are with these people a lot most of the day. It's 8 hours a day minimum, so you want to have a good fit when they're in the office. So for me, that's the key. It's the culture fit, and then from there there's reference checking and there's testing and everything else. Yes.
Perfect. And what would you say makes a really good candidate? As in, like, what is, do they have to have a certain personality or not too annoying habits, or I don't know, type really quickly? What is it that makes it
Okay.
really good
Yes.
accountant?
Well, and in accounting, there's so many different levels. So you can be an accountant just starting out at data entry, and then you could be an accountant at the CFO level. And sometimes they go on and they step outside of an accounting role into more of an operational role. So it depends on the role, and it definitely depends on the culture of the company. So, but the key things are, of course, they have to have a great work ethic. They have to have great references. And the one thing that we're finding is hard to find is candidates with tenure that will actually stay, because I know a lot of clients are looking for candidates that will stay and grow with the company and not leave after 6 months, 1 year even, or even a year and a half for maybe a little bit more money down the road. So of course you have to keep that talent once you find it. And then we talk about that as well.
Thank you. And is being a boring accountant, is that a plus?
It's very that's I think that's what people think accountants are, but that used to be back in the day. I think very rare that you find quote unquote boring accountants. I like to say that they're accountants with personalities, and they're doing so many amazing things. They're usually the life of the office party whenever there's a Christmas party or or what have you. So yeah, it's not really that in that case anymore. And a lot of accounts are supervising big teams. They are getting into acquisitions and buying other companies. They're getting out there. They have to be able to communicate. So I don't actually think a boring accountant would make a good accountant.
Okay. And what about an eye for detail? Is that an important thing, or
Oh,
does
yes.
not much?
Oh, I think for sure. So a basic of accounting is you definitely have to have attention to detail. So I mean, and to do your CPA it's not an easy course. I mean, you definitely have to be smart in order to get that CPA. And some of the accountants are doing their CFAs, and they're going on, or their masters, or there's all different degrees that you can get. So no, you definitely have to have an attention to detail, and to pass all these exams, you have to be very smart. Yes.
Thank you. Of course, I was joking as well, because of course that is one of the key things of being I think in any job you probably would need that, but as an
Yeah.
accountant, even more so, because any tiny zero means a lot, especially in the right places.
Oh,
So,
you were here.
and how can a company differentiate from good accountant versus a brilliant accountant? And should they even hire a brilliant accountant? Because I remember I've worked for some companies where
Mhm.
they would purposely maybe not hire the very top people, thinking that they would leave soon, because
Yes.
you see people and they seem overqualified and you're thinking, wow, I'm not sure this person is going to stay, because they're like so good, their CV looks
Yes.
so good that they're literally like top of the range, and if someone else was to offer a little bit more money, they would like just be flying out the window. So how do you balance this out in a way that,
Mm.
are you going to hire the very best person for the job?
Mm.
Are you going to
Mm.
hire someone that you actually think is going to stay longer?
Yes, it's a very good question, and it comes up all the time. What we find is that sometimes the candidate is willing to take a role that is perhaps even a little bit lower than their level. And the client is often just very fearful that they will leave as soon as something better comes up. So in that case, sometimes, okay, where you would do that is probably on a contract, because you can utilize them for whatever it might be, a 6-month contract, a 1-year contract, knowing that, yes, they probably will move on. Now, sometimes I've seen where it works out. You never know, where they do stay on and the company also grows, so it can actually maintain that level and keep them growing and keep them so that they're not bored. And I think that's the biggest. It's not for more money, it's not for a different industry, it's actually usually just because they're bored and they need some challenge. So as long as a company's growing, then I would say yes, do that, take them and take advantage of them, because you're getting good value with an accountant like that.
Thank you. And you mentioned that a lot of business comes through referrals, which must mean you're very
Yes.
good. So I do
Mhm.
wonder, what makes the difference between hiring you to kind of help with the hiring process,
Mhm.
and a company just kind of going by themselves and hiring their desired candidate directly?
Mm. Right. Yeah, no, it's a good question. Um, so I think, and especially in I was looking at my logo and it's got circles. And the reason that we did that is because I find that the candidates do become my client, and then the clients become candidates again. And we've been in and out of each other's lives over and over throughout all the years and through my career in recruiting. And in our city, in Vancouver, in BC, especially you narrow it down into accounting, it's a very small community. And so you get to know about people and you get to know just off the record references, I'm going to say, not exactly the professional references. Just when you're out having lunch or you're meeting somebody at a function, they happen to say something about somebody. So those are like they're very valuable references, that's for sure. But I also think that if I'm dealing with a client for many years, I get to really know, what do they like? What's their culture fit? What is it that, so I'll say, oh, that's an ABC company candidate right there. They would fit in perfectly. So I'll phone them, even though they're not hiring, and I'll say, hey, I'm not sure if you've got something coming up, but it's being proactive. And I'm marketing the candidate as well, because I'm always thinking about where would they be best suited. Or it could be even with the candidate, I could, I'll help coach them and help mentor them as well throughout their career. And I might suggest a different company for them that's a better fit than maybe something that they're looking at, just because I know the reputation and the culture of the company. So it works both ways. But I do find that when companies, they try to hire on their own, which I understand because recruiting fees can be expensive. But in the end, I find that some of them come back to me and say, oh, it was such a nightmare. I had thousands of resumes and they weren't even there. Some of them were not even in the field I was looking for. They go through the process, and then you get into different things like counter offers, bad references, bad credit records, whatever it might be, or just not the right. And it comes down to fit again. So it can be very frustrating to do it on your own, and time consuming. And I think that that's why I say hire somebody that has the knowledge versus doing it, because you should focus on what you are the expert in, and then just let me do all the work on the recruiting side, and then you can we'll both be successful together.
Thank you. And what is a good way to recruit someone? And what I'm talking about is, for example, I've been, when I was really young, on these websites like monster.com and
Yes.
other, job seeking websites.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious about how recruiters go about finding the right candidate, and also companies. Is it a matter of having the right keyword in your CV? The kind of keyword that a particular employer or a company or a recruiter would be looking for? Or is it a case of you sort of like doing what you just said, like in terms of the referrals and starting to know people, one by one, and sort of also proactively headhunting certain people that you believe some companies are looking for? So what is a good way to find these, to hire the right people?
Right. It's true. When I remember back in the day when Indeed or Monster or any of these job sites came out, people were like, oh, that's the end of recruiters. But it's funny, it really didn't affect us at all. And I think that's because, simply as to what I was saying, is it is about it's about who you know, it's about networking, it's about recruiting. But I do it's most of my business, 90%, I'm going to guess, was probably referrals. But if you're asking about, is there a tip out there for somebody looking for a job? I've heard lately with this new chat GPT and all of this, that they're saying sometimes what you can do is take a job description, put some of the keywords from that, put that in your resume, and then, send that off. Hey, look, if it works, great. But I don't know if that's the best way to get the perfect fit for your career. It would probably get your foot in the door. It would probably get you in front of them, because your resume does have some of the keywords that they're looking for. But yeah, I have not found that finding people on any of the job sites is the best way to go about hiring people. It's, I'm going to say probably too, because I've known a lot of these candidates for so many years. And so, as my business card with the circles shows, so we're in and out of each other's lives. So they're not even actively looking. It's like something comes in and I'm like, hey, I think Sally would really love that. And she's been at her company for like 4 years. Maybe I should just give her a call. So it's called dangling a carrot. And just saying, hey, what do you think about this company? They're great. They offer this, this, and this. And then we go from there. So that's how I work.
Okay. So a lot of like headhunting.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. For the perfect person. Okay. Very good.
Yes.
And is that the best way for a brand new company to hire as well? Or just for kind of established companies? What would you say?
Oh, well, I would think it doesn't matter. Brand new, established, couple of years in. And of course, the goalpost will change as you go through the like a brand new company would have a different need. Perhaps they're going to grow and then they become a public company, or they acquire more companies. So you will need a different skill set for a company that's public versus a private small company. I hope that makes sense. But so for sure, you're going to hire for that maybe 2-year plan, and then you'll assess for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I would help with that. And that's what I do. I do go in and I talk with the client, and we talk about, the org chart and what's the best fit for, for today, for right now. And then a 2-year plan, 5-year plan. We go from there.
Thank you. And what about finding like literally the right people? What are the right people? Because when it comes to hiring for my own company, I'm always looking for attitude more than skill. Having said that, for
Yes.
accountants, you do have to have a lot of skill because if you
Yes.
don't know your stuff, it's kind of like impossible to do the job. So there are some jobs where I think it's possible to learn along the way and the attitude is very important. But there are others where the skill is so critical that you just must have both. So what would you say, in your opinion, are the right people for the accounting profession, or in general, what would you say? What does that right person look like? What should we look out for?
So I think the right person for each individual company. So first of all, I would say the right person would have the passion for the industry that they're going to be working in. The right person always is, they're taking initiative. They're not looking at the clock. I mean, as an accountant, you're typically not going to have like a 9 to 5. There's going to be month ends and quarter ends and year ends where you're doing a little bit of overtime. The right person, again, when you said about attitude, the can-do attitude, and their work ethic is key. Communication skills are very key. And again, I think that ties back into that we're not looking at boring heads down accountants anymore. This is a big ask from my clients, is that the communication skills are there in written, verbal, mentoring a team. So you really have to have a more open door personality, I would say, these days. So I think that kind of sums up but of course, the right candidate's going to have the right skills. They're going to have the right industry experience, maybe software, whatever it is you're looking for. But the attitude and when we were talking about the fit, though, that's just key for sure.
Thank you. And if you were to choose between someone who is overqualified and really knows their stuff and it's all about the profit but has a bad attitude, versus another person who maybe has a little bit less experience, has a good attitude and has some skill, but maybe doesn't have the same results, what would you say to choose between the two?
I mean, every time you're going to go with number 2. The first candidate will give you problems down the road. I'm telling you, it's going to be a nightmare. So maybe that person, like I said, perhaps as a contractor, a fill-in on a vacation or something, but I definitely don't see that person as a long-term fit. And it's never worked. If you try, it never works every time. Trust me.
Thank you. What about someone's energy? Like how vibrant and focused they are at work. Is that important or not too much?
Oh, it could be. It depends on the position again. So if you're somebody that's mentoring a team, for sure you want to have some energy, or you're trying to mentor and grow and develop a team. Whereas if you're more of say you're on your like an analyst type of role, is you're a little bit more on your own, you're a little bit more heads down. And so that type of person definitely, I mean, you could be outgoing, but they might not like that position anyways, because and I've been finding this even during COVID, a lot of people were working from home. Well, the ones that were like social and lively, they really suffered because they want to be in the office and they want to be around other people and, outgoing, and you still get your job done, but they need that people contact. So it just depends totally.
Thank you. And how important is it to be globally conscious and basically to have corporate responsibility when you're hiring the right people? Does that person that you're hiring need to have that, awareness around the impact they're creating by, throwing rubbish not in a bin, or, not recycling, things like that? Is that important at all or not too much?
So I mean, of course, that's important to me, but I don't think that's a big ask yet. I think that's where we're going. And there are some of my clients that are in maybe not for profit, or they're into green energy or anything like that. So then they will look for that type of person. But definitely, I think as we're doing things like with this book that we were involved with, we're showing people that it's a good idea to be globally conscious, and the impact it can have. But I do definitely speak to it, and we encourage it here with our company. And it's something that we're very passionate about.
Thank you. And in your book, Global Conscious Entrepreneurs, you mention some techniques for recruiting. Can you tell us a little bit from that book that maybe some of the watchers can learn from?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's, you know, as people are more open to it, I do, I give some tips. So sometimes it could be that a little meditation that you might say to calm you down. When people go into interviews, they get very nervous. So I will sometimes say, okay, like a simple affirmation that you can say before you go in, or a meditation that's very gentle. It's nothing crazy. I might even suggest a certain direction that you may sit in. I work with crystals, and sometimes I might suggest a certain stone that you might want to hold or put in your pocket. Just little tips like that, and it can just give you some encouragement. And then it can go beyond that. If anybody's open to it, for sure, I'm there to help. Yes.
Perfect. So if anyone would love to get in touch with Tina, all you have to do is click on the links below this video and be sure to connect, follow, or get in touch in order to find out more about hiring the right people for your company.